everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to be doing the Columbines, one of my favorite flowers. I mean, what can I say? I live in Colorado, but it is a wonderful flower to create, and I'm going to start out here with some blends. So I've got like a dark pink and kind of a light pink, and we're going to blend those two together along with a yellow. I wanted to try this out. Now that lighter pink in here is kind of a beigeish pink. And it didn't always come across when I baked it as a great light pink. So make sure that when you go ahead and do kind of a light pink to a yellow, it's a true light pink. You live and you learn, right? You know, but I'm doing this blend, and I want to say I run that through on a number 2 setting. I will sometimes step it down to a number 3 setting to get that blend, and then I'm just going to fan fold this thing back and forth. All right, so I wanted to show you here, I've got a yellow and pink, I got a light pink to a dark pink, and then I've got a purple and white, and then I've got a pink and white. Now I want you to see this really quick. I decided to cut off the bottom end of my pink, right? And I'm kind of curling it in, and I did that to the purple one, and I really liked it because it kind of gave me more of a rounded kind of version. I cut off some more on that light, or I should say that darker pink. And part of this is because I want to get kind of a rounded kind of look on the bottom part of that cane. So that was done from a fan fold, but remember that. If you want to go ahead and take off some of that darker pink and give more to that white, that's how I would do it. Now here I'm just setting out the different canes and really the colors that I'm going to be using to create my Columbines. I've got my dark pink with my yellow, my dark pink with that kind of muddy but lighter pink. I really do suggest going to a true pink. And then my purple and my white, and then that same purple as just a solid. And then I also have a periwinkle here. So it's kind of like, has a little bit more blue tone to it. And then I've got my magenta to white cane along with my magenta and then more of a red. So keep that in mind when you're going through and you're trying to figure out colors. The best way too is also just research a little bit of what do Columbines look like. Go and look at pictures because it really helps a lot in giving you an idea what kind of colors go into this particular flower. So from here on, I'm going to be taking a lot of these canes and I'm going to be reducing them down. This one is at 1 inch by about close to 3/4. That's still pretty large. I'm even going to cut a little bit off the bottom of this. I'm going to be reducing them down though as I go. And you know, some of them are still going to be fairly large. Even when I cut the slices from these simpler canes, from these fan folds, they're still going to be fairly large. But you know, with that kind of being said, you can get these down to very miniature type sizes. And we're going to be doing some of these by hand, and then I'm going to be coming in with some fun little cutters and show you how to do them that way. So if you're like really like, I'm not sure I can do this flower, guess what? I've got probably a shortcut that's going to help you out a lot. Okay, so I'm going to be bringing in my Sculpey clay gun, and I'm really going to be loving this because it really helps me out on the center part of this flower. And this is the first version I'm going to be giving you of my Columbine. And so I'm just squeezing out, it's about 1 inch of this particular roping, and it's from that small little hair disc, as I call it. And I'm just going to go ahead and twist it up in my hand and then leave that end part is kind of flourished out a little bit, so it's not going to be tightly wove together like I have with the other end. And we're going to use that as our center part. The nice thing about doing this is that that clay gun, oh my goodness, or that extruder, however you wish to say, comes in so handy in these regards, and especially in this flower. When I go in and I cut the slices from my dark pink and yellow cane, and I'm dragging that line right up, and then I just take 5 of the petals and I'm forming around that center part. It makes such a difference, because how else do you try to do some of these centers? It's very hard to do sometimes, and especially when you get down into little bitty teeny weeny, okay, polka dot bikini, kinds of tiny little flowers. And right here, this one, yeah, this version is being done by hand, okay? And it takes a little bit of doing, but not too much. It depends on how much. If you feel like you're very capable with polymer clay, this is definitely a version, you know, I would try it. Because I always like the versions of where it's a little bit more hand done than cookie cutter form. It looks more realistic, it comes off as more realistic and more believable. So anyways, I'm bringing in that little flower here, and I'm going to bring in my green. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, the Columbine has the inner flower and then it has the outer one. Yes, it does. However, that being said, I thought if you bring in the green a little bit, kind of get this kind of put together, you pull your stem like I love to do so much, pull that stem. Once you have that done, you bring in your larger cane of that dark pink and that light pink, right? And you're going to start cutting slices from this. Now, when I do this, of course, I'm going to take my needle tool, I'm going to drag it up, and I do 2 on the outer one. And then I pull my point for the petal part, and then I come down on the other part and I pull it, but I pull it into kind of a tapered log, if you will. Once I have that kind of tapered off, and I'm going to do another one here just to kind of have a couple to work with, I'll go ahead, make those lines right up the center, pinch the point, and pull the bottom part of that petal and make that into that little tapered log. Once I have that, you're going to curl that little tapered log under or into like a little bit of a U, and then you'll go ahead and attach that into your original flower. Now, when you do this, I like to use my needle tool, just kind of make an indent so it just goes right into the flower. And yes, that is going to make it a little bit weaker at that point, but not necessarily. You're just trying to get it attached into the regular flower. If you need to, and my suggestion is, if you have another needle tool or something that you could put this on a stem, some wire, 22 gauge wire would work. And again, see how I'm going to do this? I'll go ahead and I'll attach it in, but I'll make that curled little action. I actually attach it in there and then just use the needle and then push it up. So you could do that too. But if you have a needle or some wire to go ahead and put this on a stem, I would do so. It's just a little bit easier then to manage this flower as you go to create it all the way around. Now, once I got all the petals put into this particular flower, I had a little round clay platform that I had created, and I used them with my eggs, but they are also very handy for baking 3D flowers such as this one. I usually stack 3 or 4 of those of my little platforms on top of each other and then place the flower in the center to bake it. Here I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys an idea of what it would look like doing this in a pink and white version as a center core, and then using a deeper magenta for the outer petals on this flower. Now, I do need to mention here that this clay was a little bit harder to work with, so it was not as soft as my last flower, and it really did kind of make a difference, especially when it came to, I noticed with my other flower, the larger petals on the outside were more further away from each other. I mean, you saw more of the core center than you did the larger petals on the outside. It seemed like they were more separated out. With this version, the petals are more put together. In other words, you've got the magenta petals really running up against each other. They're not really separated out. And to me, I really kind of put that towards the fact I had a little harder clay to work with. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create that same little inner core flower like we've done before, okay? And I'm using my magenta and white again. I'm dragging my line up and all that. The difference between this flower and the last one that, or I should say the last two that you've seen, is really the center of this particular flower. I used my clay gun, but for some people they're like, well, I don't have a clay gun. And I don't certainly want to get one just so I could use yellow. Or, I mean, it's one more tool you have to use, right? Well, I created just a teardrop form here in this version. I thought, let's go ahead, and I'm placing each of these petals further down on the teardrop so that you have most of the teardrop up on top, okay? And I'm even kind of bringing it to a point there, you saw with my fingers, right? I'm going to bring in my scissors here. And when I bring in my scissors, I'm going to snip that center core. I thought, why not? Instead of, if I don't have to have an extra tool around that's not necessarily readily available to everybody, why not just use the scissors, come in there, cut it as I'm cutting down into the core of it, and this way then I get the idea of having that same kind of center in the Columbine flower. Now here I'm going to be coming in with my dark crimson red and creating those, bigger petals on the outside. Notice here, I'm just placing them around the flower's center core. That's the difference here. This particular flower, sometimes you get to the point where you're like going, okay, I want to be able to hold this thing. Hold this thing and be able to create it all at the same time. Well, in doing so, and I got to the point where I'm like, I'm not going to do 5 petals, I'm going to bring in 6. That's the other thing too. You can stick with the 5 petals, or you go, I'm going with 6 here. That's the thing with the Columbine. You can go ahead and you can alter it here and there. I don't like to always keep it just to 5 petals all the way around. I'm like, no, let's go to 6. We're going to do it with 6 this time. And I do twist it up on the bottom so I have one long length, okay? See right there? There's nothing there. There's no extended out little pieces there. Now, that being said, you could come in with the scissors, and like I have that little wire up in it, right? You could come in with the scissors and then snip part of that and get those little extensions off of there. So there's a number of different ways in which you can accomplish this, where you can get those little fine kinds of little tapered logs on the bottom to come off of this flower. So this is just another version of being able to do so. Okay, so now I'm bringing in my favorite part. Yes, these are the Pukan, I guess that's how you say it, petal clay cutters. And I love this set. Holy cow. Talk about not only getting a bunch of little cutters, but I love the shapes. The shapes were great. And when it came to, and I didn't realize because I've done the Columbine by hand for so long, I don't know I rarely know anything else. And I thought, let's go ahead and take these cutters out and see if it'll help me, right? Holy cow, did it help. Oh my goodness. I was like, wait a minute. This makes a huge difference. And maybe not right here, but then again, yes, it does. It does help. Look at this little cut. Look at that little guy. I love it. Oh, I love it, yo. And I'm bringing my needle tool, dragging that little line right up there. Oh my gosh, this was awesome. So I'm using this is like my purple and white, of course, and I'm just cutting a slice. I'm bringing in that cutter, and each time I'm just going to cut down and create that petal. And notice I'm not running anything through the pasta machine. No, I'm just like, let's just go ahead and use this, cut right into the little petal slices I had already started, and there you go. This this reduced down this particular flower into much, much more of a miniature Columbine flower. I was so excited about this. Oh yeah, you guys can hear it too. I was so excited. Oh my God, because I don't have to do all that extra work now, okay? I don't have to try and make the ball, try and press it flat or anything. I don't have to go through any of that. Or I don't even, I could just come in, use the cutter, and boom, there you go. Totally reduces down the work on this particular flower. And to tell you the truth, this is a flower I don't mind having the work being reduced down on. Now in this version as well, I was trying to figure out what kind of a core or center to go with. I was almost going to go with kind of the hair one, but it was too big. It just was too big for me, and I thought, okay, it's too big. I'm going down to the teardrop. And this way, you know what? You really have to at this point, because when you're getting this tiny, I mean, you're starting to get to the point where you're like, okay, I need to make this little itty bitty teeny. And even the little ropes that I had were just, there's too many. You could probably use only a few of those little ropes instead, but you really need a bunch of them. And I just liked this version so much better. Put this around your center teardrop core, and then of course use your scissors to go ahead and snip, 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 and make all those little nice little, extra little pieces coming out of it. It looks really nice this way. And then from here, I just went ahead and brought in my purple clay. And the thing was, I thought, okay, if we're going to do this, we might as well do it. I found the other one in that same set that Pecan had. I guess that's how you say it. I want to say pecan. No, that's wrong. Anyway, go ahead and cut this out. And the clay, just so you guys know here, that purple clay was rolled out on a #1 setting, okay? So my thickest setting, although I probably could have reduced it down more, but I did so because I wanted to get a nice line with my needle tool. And even though I pinch at the top and pull at the bottom, it still reduces down so much of that work. I don't have to make that ball or create that cone in the first place. I just use the cutter and boom, there you go. And if you guys are wondering, I will go ahead and put the link to these cutters in my description area on this video. All right, so here you can really see the difference between my original Columbines and my smaller one here done with the cutters. But you know what? We can go even smaller than this, and that's what I'm going to do right here. Notice I'm using that smaller cutter. And if you look in that same set of cutters, they have even smaller ones of this version. So you can go ahead and make an even smaller core, just like that little white flower. That's what I did with it there. And I probably should have showed that, but I got so happy with these cutters, I just couldn't help myself. Anyway, I'm going to also kind of show you here too, because we're getting smaller, my core is going to have to get smaller. And I just got down to the point where you're going to get to a point where it's going to be just a dot. And you're going to bring in your needle tool and you're just going to make that little indent, and there you go. And that's how you're going to deal with that. Notice too, I'm going to go ahead and just roll this up. I'm going to create it where it's not even going to have little extensions off on the bottom. I'm just going to go ahead and wrap that up, and I'm going to pull this so I have a nice long tail of a nice stem. Now, part of this is because I'm going to put a compilation together at the very end. Notice here, I'm also bringing in my Kemper cutters. When you get this tiny, you really need to have a smaller core. So guess what? Those 5-petal type Kemper cutters work great, okay? Use your burnisher or a knitting needle to go ahead and make a little indent on each of those little petals, and then use your needle tool to go ahead and make those little lines to kind of separate out each little petal piece. Now once you have that, again, you're going to have to go with that little tiny yellow core in the very center, but you're also dealing with a flat piece here. Sometimes what I'll do is, and I'm making just little marks into those little white petals. sometimes what I'll do is I'll take my needle tool here and I'll just kind of form up a little cup and then create the larger petals for this particular columbine. Now, I did not use the cutters here, and really when I think about it, I probably should. it just takes away the work. You don't have to go through all of that. But the Kempers and this together, perfect combination for making my columbines. All right, so these are my alternative versions to creating my columbine, like a full columbine. Sometimes you don't need a full flower, but let's say you want to go ahead and keep with the columbine theme. Let's say you don't want to have to try and make a full flower, but you want kind of a smaller version. And so I'm doing that right here. I thought, let's go ahead and create kind of the idea of the columbine with 3 larger petals on the outside, another one with 2 larger petals, and then one with just 1 single petal. And yes, this is a make-believe kind of a thing, but I like to have a little make-believe in my flowers, and so that's what this little segment is all about. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys just watch my hands talk as I create these alternative kind of make-believe columbines. All right, so I've made a number of these little flowers and they're not all baked, and I thought let's go ahead and put them together into kind of just a wonderful little compilation that I could put onto a flattened, like an artboard somewhere. So this can become its own little picture piece. Yes, this is a high relief kind of a thing, but it would be so cool being able to do so. So I'm adding in each of my flowers. This particular flower, the beigeish like pink with the dark pink, that was actually baked. So I'm bringing in a little bit of a few of them that were baked and then a few that were not, and then adding in some nice green leaves and finishing up this piece. So I'll just go ahead and let you guys just watch my hands talk as I put this together and finish up my little series here on my Columbines. All right, so this is the end result in creating my Columbines in polymer clay. Please use this for study and reference. And if you liked this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.